Title: The Last Brushstroke. I remember the day it all started like it was yesterday, though it's been over a decade now. I was just a kid then, standing in the living room while my family's laughter echoed in the background, their words like knives cutting into my soul. "You're wasting your time," my father sneered, crossing his arms. "Painting? You really think that's going to get you anywhere? That's a joke, a childish dream. Get serious. Grow up." My mother shook her head, her eyes full of disappointment. "You're embarrassing us with that mess. You're supposed to be the smart one, the responsible one. Why are you wasting years chasing after something so stupid?" My siblings, they just snickered, mocking me behind my back, calling me the crazy artist, the one who'd never make it. They said I was deluded, a failure in the making, an embarrassment to the family's reputation. I was 18 then, standing there with paint-stained fingers, trembling with a mixture of shame and defiance. But inside, I knew this was my path. Why else had I spent sleepless nights, hunched over canvases, battling my own doubts? Why had I kept fighting, despite the endless cycle of rejection? Galleries rejecting my work, friends dismissing my dreams, relatives insisting I was fooling myself. I clenched my fists and whispered to myself, "One day, I'll prove you all wrong." Chapter 1. The Spark of Defiance. For years, I worked in silence. The rejection letters piled up like mountains, each one a slap to my confidence. My family's words haunted me. "You're wasting your life. You'll never make it. You're just embarrassing us." But I refused to give up. I apprenticed under struggling artists, poured every penny I made into supplies, stayed up nights perfecting every stroke, every shade. I knew I wasn't just painting for myself anymore. I was forging a future. Every setback fueled my fire. When a local gallery finally displayed my work, it was like a shot of adrenaline. When strangers bought my paintings, I felt the weight of years of doubt lift, even if only a little. Slowly, I built a name, a reputation. Years turned into a decade. I entered competitions, won awards, gained recognition. My art was no longer laughable. It was powerful, evocative. My style, dark, raw. Emotional, telling stories others were too afraid to tell. And through it all, I kept my promise to myself. I would return one day, not just with a portfolio, but with proof that dreams fuel my passion can defy all odds. Chapter 2. Breaking Barriers. I left my hometown, cut ties with the doubters, and moved to the city where I could truly grow. I became a game developer, an unconventional choice, a ridiculous pursuit in the eyes of my family. They mocked my obsession with pixels and code, calling it childish, unprofitable. But I poured everything I had into creating immersive worlds, stories I believed in, characters with depth, gameplay that challenged conventions. It wasn't easy. There were nights I questioned myself, moments I wanted to give up. But I remembered their words and used them as fuel. Every failure was a lesson. Every rejection letter was a stepping stone. Finally, after years of relentless effort, my game launched. It was a hit. Critics hailed it as innovative. Players raved about the story, the mechanics, the art style, my signature. I'd done it. The validation was sweet, but it was only part of the victory. The real triumph was knowing I'd proved everyone wrong, especially the family who had once mocked my dreams. Chapter 3. The Empire of Dreams. From that success, I built a brand. I moved from indie projects to leading teams, creating games and art installations that challenged the status quo. I expanded into business, opening a studio that celebrated weird, bold ideas. People finally saw me as someone who dared to dream and succeed. Articles featured my work. Awards decorated my shelves. I was living proof that persistence, passion, and resilience could rewrite your destiny. And yet, I never forgot where I came from. The endless nights, the tears, the relentless rejection. I knew my story wasn't just about art or games. It was about fighting against a world that tries to shut you down. Chapter 4. The Return. It was a warm summer day when I decided it was time to return home, not as the rebellious outsider, but as someone who had made it. I booked a flight, packed my success into a suitcase filled with gratitude and reflection. As I stepped off the plane, a strange mixture of nerves and anticipation washed over me. I was returning to the place that once told me I was a fool, an embarrassment. But now I was carrying more than just achievements. I carried the weight of years of perseverance. Driving into town, I saw familiar sights: the old cafe where I sketched my first ideas, the school where I was mocked, the house that felt like a prison of doubts. But everything looked different now. I had changed. Chapter 5. The Confrontation. That evening, I sat around the dinner table with my family. My heart pounded like a drum in my chest, the kind of pounding that comes when you're about to face the ghosts of your past. I looked at them, silent for a moment, then spoke softly but with authority. I'm not here to boast. I'm here to show you what persistence can do. I painted, coded, created against every doubt, every insult, every sneer. You told me I was foolish, that I'd fail, that I was embarrassing you. But I kept going. I kept fighting. And today, I stand here not just as a successful artist and developer, but as proof that dreams, no matter how ridiculous they seem, are worth fighting for. I pulled out my latest painting, a vivid piece that captured resilience and hope, then opened my laptop to reveal the game that took years to perfect, now appreciated worldwide. My family's eyes widened. Silence hung in the air as realization dawned. My father looked down, visibly choked, and finally said, "We were wrong. We never saw your vision. We didn't understand your passion." My mother's eyes filled with tears. Epilogue. The last brushstroke. Walking back through the house, I looked around at the walls I had once dreamed of filling with art, now filled with the memories of my journey. I realized that every rejection, every sneer, every doubt had been a brushstroke, dark and frightening at first, but ultimately part of the masterpiece that was my life. As I packed my bags for the flight back to the world that had embraced me, I knew one thing for certain. I had painted my own destiny, and the last brushstroke had only just begun. End of story. A story of relentless passion, defiant hope, and ultimate victory.